Before the real South Carolina Lightning struck in the third quarter, the South Carolina football team Lightning struck in the first quarter, and the Gamecocks won it over the North Carolina Tar Heels 27-10. MarkRogersTV and ProFootballCentral.com. Just a few minutes after this one went final, South Carolina, yes, struck quickly with Connor Shaw going up top to Shaq Roland 7-0 quickly on the 65-yard bomb down the middle. But this game was won in the trenches. South Carolina clearly the more dominant football team. And before we talk Shaw, Clancy, and Davis, we rightfully give mention to the offensive line and name these guys for South Carolina because they dominated, and for good reason, outweighing the Tar Heels up front by 51 pounds per player. Corey Robinson at left tackle making his 10th career start. Left guard A.J. Cann, one of the best in the SEC at 26 career starts. Right guard Roland Patrick, 15 career starts at South Carolina. And the right tackle tonight, Brandon Shell, 11 career starts at South Carolina. We believe the starting center was Waldrop, the freshman. But before we could verify that, they took the game off in our area during the Lightning delay and went to Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. The Lightning really struck in the third quarter. North Carolina had crept back into the game off of the passing of Bryn Renner, who completed 26 of 43 for $194 and one touchdown pass. 20-10 after a field goal. Then Mike Davis off right tackle, missed tackle in the hole by North Carolina. Then he was off to the races. Mike Davis, it was stated a number of times during the broadcast, a faster version of Marcus Lattimore. We're not saying a better version, not a tougher between the tackles version, but a faster version of Marcus Lattimore. Davis ran 115 yards on 12 carries, but it was that 75-yard burst that really seemed to break the backs of the Heels because 17-0 early, they were literally on their heels at that point and certainly outclassed as a football team in regards to speed and definitely power. Those defensive ends, not necessarily Jadeveon Clowney, but Chaz Sutton on the other side making all sorts of plays. And South Carolina was dominating this football game. North Carolina couldn't run it. Renner didn't have a whole lot of time throwing the football early in the game, 17-0, but the North Carolina defense held in there, and then Renner started to get just enough time to pick apart the defense underneath, never really completed passes down the field against the Gamecocks and really hurt them stretching the field vertically, but Renner made enough plays and got a few penalties to get back into the football game at 17-7, 20-7. And then a real key to this game was North Carolina went on a 17-play drive to start the third quarter, got it to the 2 or 3 yard line, decided to run right at the South Carolina defense on first down and second down. I believe also on third down as well. And then could not convert, could not get into the end zone, kicked the 20-yard field goal. Definitely a morale boost for South Carolina at that point because North Carolina had played much better for about a quarter of football. North Carolina at 20-10 after the field goal, and then Davis took off on the 75-yard scamper to make it 27-10, and South Carolina was really not threatened past that, although in the last 8 minutes of the football game, on 2 occasions, North Carolina drove it to the South Carolina 1 yard line. One of those times had a first and goal. At that point, 17 points down very late in the football game, but the other time inside about 5 or 6 minutes and could not convert. If they had gotten the first one at 27-17 with about 6 and change to play, it might have been a different football game, but certainly South Carolina dominated up front, and that really was magnified during those series on first and goal there the last 5 or 6 minutes of the football game. Very bad play late in the football game with Jadeveon Clowney getting rolled intentionally by the sophomore Kiaro Holts, a sophomore offensive lineman for North Carolina, number 72. You just don't like to see that. Bad sportsmanship out of Holts against Clowney. Let's talk about the football side of things. Jadeveon Clowney was not impressive in this game. He's clearly not in shape. He was winded. Jadeveon, you may want to hit a little cardio with the weights. That might help because Heisman winners do not stand on the sidelines for 25 of the game's first 34 plays. got to be in the game. I know that it was like 92 degrees at kickoff, high humidity in South Carolina, but your teammates can do it. So you need to do it. You need to stay on the field. Clearly, there were a lot of plays spotlighted during this game in which Clowney just kind of gave up on the play. It wasn't really at him, so he didn't really want to chase it down. He did have a few burst plays where he flagged down some North Carolina running backs down the field, 7-8 yards, and hustled after the football, but that was too rare on this night. So we'll see if Jadeveon Clowney can get his act together, get conditioned, and play big, especially with Georgia coming up very soon for South Carolina. Otherwise, Connor Shaw played very well for the most part for South Carolina with his legs and with the arm. He's a dual threat quarterback for sure. Now the winningest quarterback in South Carolina history at 18-3. Shaw completed 11 of 19 for 149 yards with a one big touchdown to Shaq Roland. And so South Carolina wins it with Dylan Thompson coming off the bench just for one play, much like he did against Michigan, throwing a touchdown pass in a critical time for South Carolina, as he did in throwing the game winner in the Outback Bowl last season. So Dylan Thompson makes this a two-headed monster when it comes to quarterbacking for South Carolina, one of the best backups in the nation. Okay, Mike Davis, again, 75 yards on the run that broke the Tar Heels back. He ran for $115. South Carolina, North Carolina football fans, chime in. We would love to hear what you have to say about the performance of your football team on opening night right here on Mark Rogers TV.